Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is Stranger Days. And, the Louis C.K. saga has been a very interesting one to follow over the course of the past year. He has lost his career. He apparently lost $35 million in an hour when the accusations against him wanking it in front of women came out. He, of course, acknowledged those accusations, admitted that he was wrong, admitting that he made a mistake, and then went away for a long period of time only to get completely crapped on when he came back, trying to just find his voice again and hopefully maybe prove he's, well, become a better person. But he's got an unlikely defender, a person who you wouldn't think, especially right now, would be coming out to basically say, like, yeah, it was no big deal. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. But first, do me a solid. Toss this video a thumbs up. Definitely comment below because we have a fun ride to get to. Because you won't believe Sarah Silverman says Louis C.K., well, he in front of her with her consent. So Louis C.K. apparently, we know this now, has a thing for just whipping it out and cranking one out in front of women. And Sarah Silverman, who's known him for a long time, was like, yeah, he did it to me quite a bit. And I was totally cool with it. Okay. I mean, the Beatles had a very similar situation, right? Paul McCartney came out recently and said that they all did that in front of each other one day in the dark, a couple times while recording music. Ringo Starr denied it, but no one ever believes Ringo in anything. But anyway, here's what she says. Now, it says, Sarah Silverman said comedian Louis C.K. used to crank one out in front of her with her permission during an interview with Howard Stern, saying, I don't know if I'm going to regret saying this. I've known Louis forever. I'm not making excuses for him, so please don't take this that way. We are peers. We are equals. When we were kids, he asked if he could in front of me, and sometimes I would go, F yeah, I want to see that. It's not analogous, I don't know, to other women that are talking about what he did to them. He could offer me nothing. So we were only friends. So sometimes I wanted to see it. It was amazing. Sometimes I would say, effing no, gross, and we got pizza. Silverman used this story as part of her explanation for why she believes CK didn't understand the implications of his actions, pointing to his sudden fame and his inability to grapple with the newfound power that came with it. And that's actually an interesting take. No. It is. Think about this. They've known each other for a very, very, very long time. Louis C.K. got started like working with like Chris Rock, the Chris Rock movie Pootie Tang. Louis C.K. wrote, no, it wasn't Chris Rock, but Louis C.K. wrote and directed Pootie Tang, and he worked with a bunch of people from back in the day, and then all of a sudden got famous. And if this was his thing, he had a proclivity to whip it out and take care of it in front of women, and they were generally okay with it. That could explain why he kept doing it. I mean, the weirdest explanation or the weirdest comparison I think I can come up with, and I'm not excusing what he did, by the way, but the weirdest thing is like that kid, the affluenza teen from a couple years ago, who killed 4 people and then got off really, really, really light because he didn't know any better, because his lifestyle was so affluent that he couldn't process it. And I know people out there argue that that isn't real, that doesn't exist, that that's not a thing, but it's possible that it might be. And it's possible that Louis C.K. had always just been a chronic in front of women. That's what got him off, literally, figuratively, mostly literally. And then that was, he never processed that what he was doing was wrong. Now, Silverman's saying here, I'm not saying what he did was okay. I'm saying at a certain point when he became influential, not even famous, but influential in the world of comedy, it changes. He felt like it was like he was the same person, but the dynamic was different, and that was not okay. Going on to say, I'm not saying that everyone should embrace Louis again. I believe he has remorse. I just want to talk to him about it on stage, or I just want him to talk about it on stage. He's going to have to find his way or not find his way. And that is, quite frankly, I think what a best friend would say. It's like, look, my friend made a mistake, right? Like made serious, egregious mistakes. And the best way for him to get around it is to talk about it, to be open about it, to be public about it, and to turn it into a joke, not because he's trying to wash it away or anything else, but just because he wants to acknowledge it. And that's how he processes these things. And maybe that's what will get him to realize that whacking off in front of women, even though he asked permission, is not always the right course of action. Because apparently Sarah Silverman's own sister even came out and was like, yeah, no, he's definitely done this. She said Laura Silverman, who also tweeted that CK jerked it in front of her approximately 20 times during a cross-country trip before he was famous. However, she also clarified that she did not view the act as criminal, saying after that it was Louis CK on a cross-country trip before he was famous about 20 times, not criminal, but compulsive, rude, and gross. Sure, rude and gross. That's a way to look at it right there, right? That's a fair way to look at it. He I'm not even too sure. I think like they just understood that might have been their dynamic, right? Like that might have been like the thing that they accepted, like Tourette's, but with jerking it. You know, it's like, oh, he's got to go do that real quick. Okay, fine. Like Dewey from Scary Movie, you know, it's like that's kind of his thing, I guess. And he ends up that's what got him in trouble because he couldn't process that what he was doing was wrong. And I've never actually looked at it from that perspective. I thought he was just a lonely dude who was drunk and was like hoping that if he pulled it out, then that might be like a pity thing. You know, they might be like, oh, yeah, no, I mean, like, sure, yeah, we'll do this just to be weird about it. Like, that's his weird kind of kink is to get that kind of like sad, lonely, drunk pity sex. Like, I thought that could be his thing. But I never realized until now that this was a compulsive act, which tells me at this point that it's more of a mental thing, of a mental health thing rather than something that is meant to be compulsive and an attack on women. So he just can't control it, which opens up a whole new broader dynamic. Again, I am no way condoning it. Definitely not a good idea, but it just puts a different thought process on it. Now, she says here that she has addressed the sexual misconduct allegations waged against CK in the past, saying she was conflicted, saying he wielded his power with women in effed up ways, sometimes to the point of where they left comedy entirely. I could couch this with the heartwarming stories of our friendship and what a great dad he is, but that's totally irrelevant, isn't it? Yes, it is. It's a real mind because I love Louis, but Louis did these things. Both of those statements are true. So I just keep asking myself, can you love someone who did bad things? Can you still love them? And that is an interesting question because the way that, you know, our society is, and I've talked about this before, we live in a very big cancel culture society. You screw up, regardless of how big it is, it becomes this get rid of them, you go, blah, all these things. And it's not always best. It's not always best because people need to learn. They need to grow. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be some type of, you know, like everyone's mileage will vary in regards to how they acknowledge and process the situation, whether or not they choose to forgive and move on, to forgive and forget, or to forgive and embrace. We don't know. Everyone is different. And that's going to be something Louis and many, many, many other people who have been in those kind of situations have to bear. And that's fine. But this opens up a whole new dynamic, in my opinion, a conversation, if you will, about why he did what he did. And I was always curious about that. Is it because he was a gigantic pervert? I mean, a lot of his humor is kind of self-deprecating and sexual. Would he sit there and do these acts as a way to kind of be more self-deprecating, right? Because we don't know if he's got like a big old mushroom head, a veiny pepperoni stick wang, right? We don't know if it's big, short, fat, wide, small, slender man. We have no idea. No one's described it in detail from what I've read, and I'm totally okay with that. But what I'm getting to is like, was he doing this as a way to acknowledge the self-deprecating part of him? He's putting himself in a situation that maybe he wanted these women to laugh at him because that fueled the part of his brain that allowed him to just tear himself down. He needed to have that as an emotional trigger. So he would do this as a way to funnel into his comedy. Now, I'm probably overanalyzing the situation, and I admit that, but it's just kind of where my brain goes on it. At this point, I really hope that Louis has gone out and gotten some help. I really do. I think I read that he did, but he's trying to move past this part in his life, and he's trying to get back at least something that he had before. Will he ever be where he was before? Probably not. Will he find a solid middle ground? Probably. I think that's going to happen with a lot of people, to be honest with you, that are in these kind of situations. And that's okay. People make mistakes and they got to grow and come back, but they have to learn not to do those things again. So yeah, I'm curious to know your thoughts on this one. If you made it this far, type whack into the chat so I know. Leave your thoughts. Do you think Louis CK can make a comeback? Do you think that he's done? Is he out? Does this change your mind that he conquered it in front of her, you know, multiple times and she was okay with it? I'm curious to know your thoughts. Let me know. My name is, of course, Matt Jarbo. This has been Stranger Days. I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a great day, and peace out.